I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to Let's Talk Program in K Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown, Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards. But we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. Your voice in the community, thought that get results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in the numbers listed: 869-469-1616 and or 1700. You can also follow us on our YouTube channel at Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio, and you can follow the video stream as well. Thank you all again for joining us. Tonight, the Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my fellow panelists tonight, Conrad Nyalai. But let me say good evening to those who are listening and viewing this edition of Let's Talk tonight. I want to say a special good evening to those who are celebrating tonight, whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some accomplishment in their life. I hope that they are certainly having a wonderful time. I want to pause and say extra special advance birthday greeting to my dear son, celebrating his 30th birthday this coming Saturday. It was almost like yesterday when he came into this world. Now he is 30, so I just want to wish him advance birthday greetings. But to those families who are in mourning tonight, for the loss of a loved one, a friend, a colleague, I certainly want to take this opportunity to offer my deep and sincere condolences, and I hope that they can remember their loved one, their friend, their colleague with fond memories. To those who are in our various hospitals tonight here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and further afield, I certainly hope that they would be up and about very soon with the help of the divine intervention and certainly the help of doctors and nurses and the various medication that is available. Well, thank you for the invitation, and I'm certainly looking forward to tonight's discussion.
Conrad Nyalai, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your staff here at Vaughan Radio, to my colleague, Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening. And then to everyone in tune to the program, Webbo, it's a beautiful day once again here in Nevis. No doubt there is quite a lot to speak about as it relates to the people and as it relates to the politics of our little federation, Webbo, and so much things in the global aspect of our interest. Webbo, I'm happy to be here once again. I want to just thank you so much for extending this invitation to me once again.
As you said, it's interesting, the number of things on the docket. The PLP held their convention on Saturday, and as I did when the PAM had their convention a week or two ago, and I did place at least a snippet from it so that those who were not listening can get an idea of what went on. It was pretty interesting as well, and I think a lot of people were looking for the position of the PLP leader and Prime Minister Dr. Harris's maybe response in detail to what the leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement, Premier Brantley, had said, and the leader of the People's Action Movement, Sean Richards, had said. They being the other two leaders of the other two parties that make up the coalition of unity. There have been a lot of things traded in the public. I remember that when we discussed it, and there was some view as to whether or not Mr. Brantley and Mr. Richards and company at the PAM convention aid their dirty laundry where they ought not to have aided. And so it's rather interesting. And there's some development also today with the deputy leader, Mr. Richards, suggesting or saying that he needs to get certain things done with regard to the agreements that were made under unity going into government. So all that, I suppose, can be flushed out and discussed and so on. However, as I said, from our news, we had an interesting clip by the Prime Minister, Dr. Harris. So let's go to that.
I have asked the Financial Secretary to consider what it will cost to give you, our workers, an increase in wages and salary. I see money coming.
I see money coming.
When the money come, please spend it well. Don't start to plan to go spend yet. Remember, I didn't say how much it gonna be, and remember, I didn't say when. But out of the love of my heart and that of my cabinet, I know money coming.
I see money coming.
Okay, maybe I can begin by asking you too. Any of you see any of the money coming?
Well, I really don't know what the Prime Minister is talking about, to be quite honest. I'm not drift off into things probably that is not known by the everyday people, everyday average and common people. I think it's Nevis. Maybe he's predicting another windfall with the CBI program. I was told it's quite possible that a lot of money is going to be moving into these places because of what's happening in with the war, with Russia and Ukraine. They feel like Russia would be trying to escape the scrutiny of course, running from those who are trying to sanction them in every way and take their money in possession. So that is one area I could probably fantasize about. Another, it can simply be what they do, making promises and to really increase that level of support and friendship, which I think money does sometime. I see money coming. I wish that I can hear that same echo reverberating from the shores of Nevis, from the politicians over here in Nevis. Seems to be like we are going to dry weather, while 11 miles away or 3 miles away, 2.5 miles away, they seems to be celebrating and anticipating money is coming. I do hope, Webbo, that what was said about the arrangement that was made, which to me carry a high moral ingredient, because a lot of people want to talk politics, but to me there's a morality involved here, and an arrangement at times I think should be honored. I'm not sure if I should go back and talk about the outburst, if you want to term it that way, that Mr. Brantley had. But I would like to say this really and truly. You can divide this into many different areas, but as a fellow Nevisian, I cannot really wrong Mr. Brantley for speaking up the way he did. Because, Webbo, this thing must be known, It must be known not just within the cabinet of Nevis Island administration. It must be known by the people of the Federation. It must be known by the people of the region, because I could remember when we were talking about secession in 1998. All kind of CARICOM and other regional organizations felt like, hey, Nevis shouldn't be going on. Maybe there was no way of what we were enduring for so long. It's almost a shame to be talking about this, because I know this has been an issue from the 1960s. I know myself, I was born 1965, and for it to be happening now, I must say that there are two things that affect me in a negative way. That is the war in Ukraine and the fact that Nevis is not getting its full share. You can put a big politic twist on it, and you can say all kind of things, and I've been hearing all, but to me, fundamentally, there's a moral issue here. And it is simply not just between two guys. It is two guys that represent a country of so many thousands of people. And so when such things are not honored, you are in some way subjugating, or what can I say, you're probably doing something which is totally unfair to one of the people. And in that case is Nivision. So in particular, we want to term it an outburst, cursing, dirty laundry, or what? That must be heard. That must be known. That yes, we are unhappy, as we always have been, because of this relationship, and in particular, more recently, arrangement that was made that is not honored. Is a serious case to me. And as I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record. People can say what they want, politicians and everything, but I don't want to talk politics about it. I want to talk almost like maturity, almost like manhood, living up, morality, you know, and in that respect, I would say, I think Mr. Bentley was right in exposing the inadequacies, the injustice, the unfairness which we are enduring. And not only that, I mean, the people must know, you know, unity is a government made up of three different political parties. So don't pretend that things are fine, you know, and having the people to make another mistake based on a misguided circumstance. He was right to let the people know that all is not well.
About the comment by the Prime Minister as it relates to increase in wages and salary, it's a very interesting comment at the time when it came. I believe that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis would recognize that civil servant salary in St. Kitts and Nevis have been frozen now for a number of years. On Nevis, for example, I know increments have been frozen for 2-3 years, and I have taken a position with regards to that particular statement of a wait and see attitude. And I'm going to explain why I've decided to take a wait and see attitude with that particular statement. Naya spoke about the compilation of Team Unity, 3 different political parties. And I sit in a cabinet that make up or is one part of the Team Unity structure as it relates to the CCM. A statement indicated that the cabinet would have given their support for the increase in wages and salary. I'm paraphrasing. That's at the federal level. And we on the island of Nevis, Webbo, have often normally discuss certain positions as it relates to what are the positions when it comes to Nevis on certain matters. And I want to sit here tonight and say to the world that at no time we have discussed the matter of any increase in any wages or salary that was imminent, and I will put that aside. But I want to say tonight, Webbo, that it's a statement that I personally have decided that I would adopt a wait and see attitude and position on it. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis definitely deserve an increase in their wages and increase in their salary. because salaries have been frozen for the last 2 or 3 years or something also. And I think that if that increase and wages were to come next month, next 2 months, next 3 months, to be a good thing. I would be the first one who would say it's a good thing, because the people of St. Kitts and Nevis definitely deserve it. Naya spoke about the matter of this fair share and whether Nevis, or I think he said that the Premier was right to expose, as it were, the situation. It has been, Webbo, a long and hard and arduous journey on this matter, right? Like I said, I sit at a place where I am not certain if many persons really understand the frustration and the agony and the disappointments that we often have in dealing with this matter. It has gone to another level, and it has reached to a point where I think that the people of Nevis are beginning to get an appreciation of what it is that is really due to them. If they have not done so before, I think that they are getting that sense of appreciation. Was it done in a conventional way? Was it done in a cordial way? That's another story. That's another argument. But I believe that the general public is having some really good discussion on this particular matter, because I feel that it is in the public interest, it is in the interest of the people of Nevis to understand what it is that we are dealing with. So, Prime Minister would have made his proclamation that increase in wages and salary. I would be the first to welcome it for the hard-working civil servants of St. Kitts and Nevis. But I would keep an eye on it, as I said, Webbo, as a wait-and-see attitude, because I know that oftentimes things are proclaimed at the federal level and it directly impacts the island of Nevis. Now, the Prime Minister were to indicate and proclaim that all civil servants in the Federation would get an increase of, I'm just going to call a figure, 15%. We in the Nevis Island Administration, the first thing that we would ask, well, where are we going to get the money from? Where are we going to get the money from? And I think that that in itself opened up a different conversation, because as Naya would have pointed out, if the Nevis Island Administration were to get their fair share, then an increase in civil servant to the people of Nevis would not be a problem. So we must ask the question, what is the real intent? And it's a question that I believe that all right-thinking Nevisian must ask. What is the real intent behind this particular proclamation and statement? We on the island of Nevis have been, during the entire COVID pandemic, we struggled to meet the commitments of our civil servant. We struggled. It wasn't an easy task. And the budgetary support that we would have received from the federal government, which is Nevis people's money, was what was able to help us to get through those dark and difficult periods. And we're not necessarily asking for anything that was not rightfully ours. So when I hear this particular statement, I say interesting. If it's as genuine as it is, I would say more power to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. But in my inner feeling, oftentimes you hear things and you look at things and you try to dig a little deeper and you dissect them and you realize that there could be some ulterior motive. Because the first question that I know that the Minister of Finance in Nevis would ask, well, if the people of St. Kitts and Nevis were to get that increase, the first question I know that we would ask, well, where Nevis is going to get this extra money from? And that, I believe, should be the question for Nevisians.
Do we know if the Minister of Finance in Nevis, before the statement was made, was privy to it?
I do not know Webbo, and I am not certain if he was.
Well, I suppose if he didn't, that says it all. And the intent, of course, would be one of surrounded with skepticism. Well, what I'm seeing as a citizen of St. Kitts Nevis, I see.
Now let me.
Oh.
We don't have a lot of time,
Okay.
so let me start getting some views in. Good evening.
sure.
Thank you for holding.
Yeah, Webbo, good evening to you, good evening to the panel. Interesting discussion. But there's an answer if I look at this. Why is the Prime Minister announcing increase for salaries in the Federation? And the Nevis Minister of Finance, the Premier of Nevis, doesn't know where the money is coming from. Shouldn't this be a cabinet discussion?
But to be fair, though, that is why I asked Mr. Brand whether or not he knows if the Minister of Finance was privy to it.
Well, you see, this. I mean, I hear people getting involved in this discussion, and a lot of them sound like they don't know what they're talking about, because as far as I know, we have 3 ministers of government in the federal assembly, in the cabinet, and for the Prime Minister to be announcing this thing like a secret for PLP confirms the fact that the Prime Minister is dealing with the federal budget like his personal piggy bank. And then people going around saying, wait. I mean, come on. That's supposed to be a discussion between all the ministers in the federal cabinet.
But caller, you're going on the assumption that they did not know.
Well, they did not know, Webbo.
Yeah,
It's evident that they did not know.
Yeah. Well, okay. What is your evidence that they did not know?
Well, look, you have a minister in the Nevis Island administration. I know he's not in the federal in the federal cabinet, but we have 3 ministers in the federal cabinet, and he's one. The main one is the leader is the premier, and he's one. He just said here that the premier is wondering where the money is coming from.
That's no. Let's Mr. Brand is still here, so Mr. Brand, could you clarify what you said?
Well, I indicated that I sit in a cabinet for the Nevis Island administration, and oftentimes we normally would discuss in our cabinet certain matters that would have discussed at the federal level that would directly impact the island of Nevis. And I'm saying here tonight that at no time we had ever discussed in the Nevis Island cabinet an increase in salary for civil servants at the federal level. That is what I am saying.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brand.
Okay.
That is exactly my concern.
Okay.
That is exactly my concern. This announcement was a hype for one particular party of the coalition to appease the followers and to look for followers.
Right, caller, I got you, and
at the expense of the people.
Right, I got you, and
think it's Nevis people.
caller,
Yes, sir.
I got you, and the other thing that we would like to ascertain for sure whether or not the other unity partner, the PAM segment, whether they knew as well. Okay.
That is exactly what my concern, Webbo.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, you can join in the conversation at 468-1869-469-1616 and or 1700. I think I had interrupted you, Mr. Brand.
I think I was
You
generally
were
completed in
through?
my statement.
Was it Naya then?
Yes, but there's something going on, you know. And sometimes I really I think government, even though transparency is something we talk about in a big way, there's something going on with the unity which hurts its supporters. I think people's wish and them supporting and casting their vote has been almost been it's not well honored according to the relationship that I'm sensing is happening right now.
Okay, let me take
unity.
Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert.
Yes.
Did you get the opportunity to listen to the PAM town hall meeting last night?
No.
Okay, well, the question you asked Mr. Brand just now, Janel Powell, in his opening statement, when he said, when the question asked or whatever, he said they are part of the salary increase that they're getting, that PAM knows about it. If you play back that tape and you get to listen to Janel Powell, I'm getting the impression that PAM knows, Janel Powell, they knows about the increase. So it's somebody that the Honorable Premier of Nevis don't know about it, if you listen to Janel's statement.
Look, okay, so, yeah, go, caller, hold on. Mr. Brand, go ahead.
Caller,
Mm-hmm.
I never said that the Honorable Premier didn't know about it. I said
No,
that.
I didn't say you say it, you know.
Well, I just want to correct the record, because I never said that the Honorable Premier did not know about it. What I said, and I want the general public to be absolutely clear with what I am saying. I am saying that we normally discuss certain things at our cabinet that directly impact the island of Nevis, and at no point. So if it is, let's assume that the Premier is aware of it, and I don't normally speak for the Premier. Let's assume that the Premier is aware of it. What I am saying to you, that it was never discussed at our cabinet.
But also, Mr. Brand, there would be other things that might that are discussed at the federal level that come to the cabinet sometime after.
Yes.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yes, caller.
Well, that's the only reason why I called, because when I listened to the town hall meeting last night, when I heard Honorable Janel Powell mention it, I get the opinion that they know about it. But what's surprising me is that when you listen to the PAM convention, who was before the PLP convention, nothing was said about no increase, but the Prime Minister mentioned it. So should they give the Prime Minister, well, as the leader, the authority first to say it? I don't know. But like I said, when you listen to the PAM convention, Janel Powell mentioned at least we know about the increase. So don't think that the Prime Minister mentioned it and we did not know about it.
Caller, I want you to know, before, when I started, I said I have personally adopted a wait and see attitude. I don't know if you heard that part of my statement.
Okay. All right.
Okay, well, gentlemen, can you have a wonderful evening?
Okay, thank you. You as well.
Yep. Okay, beautiful.
Okay. Well, you know, it's always good to, you know, get the facts out there. And, you know, once you play them, that's why I made a comment. And I played, you know, the tape. And so if it is that everybody knows about it, remember also they said it was not a decision that has been cast in stone as yet. So it's something that was under consideration. Now, the other things seemingly that are pretty interesting as to whether or not what's the health of unity. People are discussing that, and there's some movements going on. And the question is whether or not people think that the unity construct as it is now, how long will it last? As is.
Yeah, that's the obvious question, and that's exactly what I'm pointing to. You know, you're dealing with a group of supporters, which is basically disappointed. They're hardcore supporters of unity for sure. And sometimes, you know, they speak of unity and the Navy's contribution to it in such ways that I must sometimes think that really they're just really playing with us, really, and making us feel good about our involvement, yet we are not very happy about it. I'm one who always say that Navy's always have a strained political relationship with Sinkers. I personally always say that Navisians are never happy in a political an existing political relationship with Sinkers. Sometimes on paper it's sound good, but the way it play out there's always problem. Yes, Webbo, the unity doesn't seem like it's gonna last for much longer. But beyond a next term, Webbo, I truly don't feel that way.
But just a gentle reminder, Naya. In the first term, maybe
6 months.
Right, it wasn't right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well. I mean, the signs are there, Webbo. The signs are there. There might be another unity, but with these three parties, it looks extremely difficult that it would go through. And as it relates to what the Prime Minister said, maybe it is yet to be discussed. And when it's discussed, I'm sure the question that you asked, Mr. Brand, would be, the highlight of the discussion, like where we're going to get the money from. Maybe that would be accompanied by a new arrangement or a commitment to the old arrangement.
But the truth is, though, is that one of the issues that is causing strained relations? An increase in the salary?
Not that high.
No.
Right. So then that is something that
is very much standing out there on its own, and that's why we are wondering.
So the question is then, what are the issues that are causing perhaps the relations to be strained, and are they being addressed? Nobody knows what the issues.
Well, yes.
So then the question is, are they being addressed? And if they're not being addressed, is it likely that you will have amended?
Well, if that the salary increase was uppermost and the fundamental thing, there are a lot more important things that probably would keep the unity together than an increase in salary. I mean, come on, it's about living up to arrangements. I think that is cracking the unity, basically.
Mr. Brand, do you know what are some of the issues why there's vexation of spirit?
The two main issues
And leadership.
The two main issues, Webbo, happen to be the matter of the 2 terms for the Prime Minister. That is front and center. And the other main issue is the agreement as it relates to an equitable fair share for the island of Nevis. Those are the 2 big elephants in the room. Now, Webbo, I want to take us back a bit. This unity government was put together leading up to the 2015 general elections. And the general public would recall that the Concerned Citizens Movement Party have a very entrenched record, and they have had a long-standing position of not aligning themselves with any political party on Sinkers. Many persons would have left the Concerned Citizen Movement family because of that particular position. Remember in Sinkers when they had the 4-4 and they thought that Nevis could have obtained the prime ministership and so on. There was a lot of discord and dissent within the CCM family over that particular matter. Persons would have left CCM over it. Fast forward to the last 4 years or 5 years or maybe even up to 8 years of Dr. Denzil Douglas prime ministership. and his relationship with Nevis. It has pushed Nevis in a position where they no longer could have basically stand on the fence and continue to watch the people of Nevis suffer. The leader of the concerned citizen movement at that time, Vance Amory, would have changed his position, his long-standing position, that fellas, let us try this thing called unity. Mark Brantley, the deputy premier, the hierarchy, so to speak, of the CCM would have rallied with this position, with the hope that things would be better for the island of Nevis. And let me make it clear that while we have seen some improvements, and we have seen some improvements in the relationship and the benefit to the people of Nevis, we have seen some. That is a given. Under the Douglas regime, whatever we get, we were getting it as a loan. Under unity, whatever we get, most of it was basically grant, what you call free money, but Nevis people money nonetheless. So there have been some change, there have been some improvement, there have been some benefit to the people of Nevis. But there was an agreement. And I often think that when politicians give a commitment to people, and they give a commitment to the nation, and they make these proclamations, and they for some reason backtrack from them, for one reason or the other, then you know politicians are often branded as crooks and liars, and I think that the point that is being made in this particular situation is for persons to simply honor their commitment. And I believe that we are in a new sphere, we are in a new time, we are in a period where we have certain people around in politics, in Nevis in particular, that is not afraid of a soul. And I think that that is one of the defining difference in this time, in this period. That there are people who are prepared to stand up and prepare to say and call it as it is. Well, we'll ask the question as to what are the problems. I said before, the issues are, the main issue is the matter of the 2 terms for the Prime Minister and the matter of a fair or equitable share for the people of Nevis that was agreed to and signed off on in the Charlestown Accord. There is no indication that the matter of the 2 terms for the Prime Minister is being settled anytime soon. And we on the Nevis end, we continue to agitate that our major concern is that the people of Nevis can get what is rightfully due to them. Now, I was at the Mondochak Stadium, Mondochak this afternoon. You know, I sat there in the stand, and I marvel. And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it is incomplete," and we have the people them sitting in the sun, and I often marvel that, you know, how transformative Nevis could be if Nevis were to get what is rightfully theirs. We are not begging and asking for any favors. When I look at that facility, I say how transformative it could be. I was in the E.T. Willett Park a couple of days ago. Again, another facility. How transformative as well that could be. You drive around, you go around, and you look at different things across the length and breadth of Nevis. And the reality is that nothing in this country is going to get done without hard cash, money. the question must be asked, should the government increase taxes on people? And we are not a government that is so inclined to do that. Well, if there is a revenue stream that we can get, that we already own, why not go after it? To the benefit of the people of Nevis. And for anybody to think and to feel that the government of Nevis is doing anything untoward, then I think that they are making a mistake, because we have clearly signaled that this matter must end with the benefit of the people of Nevis. And that is all that we are after. Our aim and our ultimate goal is to the benefit of the people of Nevis. That is what we were elected for, and that is what our aim and our goal is. To make sure that in everything we do, that the people of Nevis will benefit.
You know, Webbo, this has been a long-time issue, and yes, to a great extent, we get fed up with it. I wish that things were okay enough that we didn't have to be having this debate, because there are people out there who are totally, fed up with it, and they don't find that even though the island administration is right to blame the lack of equality as it relates to what is Nevis, or what is basically the federation funds, and Nevis should have their fair share. But I think, Webbo, that there's that feeling also that to a great extent it's being used as an excuse in government. Maybe not even just this government or in this dispensation, but even previous government gone by. People of Nevis are hoping that the management of the funds that arrive in Nevis, that Nevis have to play with, is done in a way that it can maximize whatever is to be done in the interest of Nevis. So, for instance, you make the point, Mr. Brand, that you were at the Mundo track and you feel like if we were getting our fair share, it would have been completed. You look at the E.T. Willard Park and you feel the same. Out there, it's not purely that type of thinking. People feel like, not just your government, but previous government has been using the inequality that Nevis experienced as an excuse, basically saying that you got to use what you get and maximize it to the benefit of Nevis. A complex like the E.T. Willard Park, Mr. Brand, as I see today, to me, it looks like a place that haven't been considered for renovation for a long time. A place so important to Nevis. I can't help being a little tough on the government. Maybe not only this one, but the previous one too, to have Grove Park looking the way it looks. It looks like nothing has been done to Grove Park since Johnny Howell built the pavilion. Mr. Blackie went and did something else, but it is really one of the very, it's an area that is a sore to the eye, really, in these modern times. We don't expect a big stadium or anything, but we do expect that Grove Park would have gotten more attention. Should have been improved to a great extent, really, Mr. Brand. And even though it's a political climate, here's where I try to drop politics and deal with reality, deal with what I personally think is good for Nevis. And I don't mind who feel what I think and say nice this and what. I feel like Grove Park should have been a better looking place today, regardless of what is going on with Sinkets and their money. And in many circumstances, I think out there little people feel like and rightly so, too much excuse being that has been used too often as an excuse. I understand these huge amount of money. I mean, when a country get $580,000 and you give the sister island 40, 580 million and you give the sister island 40, there's something absolutely wrong with that. And I can see a lot of things can be happening. A lot of things can be happening with that extra money, if we do get our fair share. But I was just highlighting the fact that we cannot always use that as an excuse, really. You know, the island administration are there to administer and manage the funds. And even though, yes, we will acknowledge that we've been treated really bad and more money would have taken us much further, it is not really, we are not giving the island administration that green light to basically say, well, things are the way they are simply because we are not getting our fair share. Mr. Mann.
Well, I hear you, and I am not sitting here and saying that the government which I'm a part of is using not getting our fair share as an excuse. We're not saying that at all. What we are saying is that there could be a lot more that can be accomplished if the people of Nevis had access to what is rightfully theirs. And I just pointed out two particular instances. I'll say to you, Naya, during the COVID pandemic, the government took a position that there is no way at that time that the government would lay off any civil servant. Right? That was a decision that we took. We cannot, we would not, and we will not. However we find the money, wherever we find the money, no civil servant and Nevis will be laid off. That was the first decision that we made. And I think that the general public would appreciate that the assistance that we got, the budgetary assistance, if you want to call it that way, from the Sustainable Development Fund, from the federal government, was what kept, in a great part, the people of Nevis, the civil servants of Nevis, employed. They were paid in full and on time. Why? That is a classic example, Naya. That we really didn't have to go to any banks and borrow and increase the debt and so on and so forth. We were able to hold strain within our means with what we got, that what was rightfully ours.
Right.
Right? And there were countries that had to lay off, that had to cut salaries, that had to do all kinds of things to civil servants. And we took a decision that will not happen in Nevis. Now, how were we able to do that? We were able to do that because of what we received that was rightfully ours. And that was just one example, that if the people of Nevis were to get what was rightfully theirs, a lot more could happen. We are not making an excuse. We, on a day-to-day basis, try to work within our means and our limitations, and it's not easy. But I was just pointing out those 2 points, that there's a lot of ideas floating around, there's a lot of things, a lot of demands, but because of finances, not being able to execute, not being able to, you have to defer and all of that. But I'm saying that as a government and as a people, we can accomplish more and we can implement a lot more if the funds were available, and that is a reality. It's not an excuse. I mean, I know successive premier, government and minister of finance will tell you the same thing.
This is Thought That Get Results. The Honorable Spencer Brand, Conrad Nye Library. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. We'll be back after these.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results. While all that is playing out, the war in Ukraine is also playing, and the concerns of everyday people looking at the images and so on and so forth, and the fact that anybody noticed yet at least one direct result, the gas prices.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's another very interesting development, which will also cause certain impacts on people's lives and livelihood. And lest people forget, there's still another strain of the COVID-19 that's galloping, so to speak. So a lot of things perhaps happening that we need to be concerned about. But the gas prices.
Yeah, shocking, Webbo. Shocking, and one expect that it would even go higher. But not just gas. We are experiencing a general increase in the cost of living. You know,
right.
Something that looks like to be reflecting 30%. It looks like, but well, maybe that's why the Prime Minister find it fit to increase salary, because trust me, Webbo, some cashiers, and they tell me don't call him, but some cashiers are arguing, in a big way for increase. Everybody seems to be arguing for increase. Now, the government seems like they want to increase salary. What about the everyday people? Are we going to see an increase in the minimum wage or something?
That is a discussion I know have been had. I feel that...
okay, Mr. Bell, let me get this. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Good evening. You're on the air.
Yes, Mr. Herbert, I think the night when the Prime Minister, exactly what Naya just said about the cost of living, leading up to the Prime Minister announcing that, I think that is what he said. He said, he's taking into consideration the high cost of living. Things has been going up, in the supermarkets and, the gas, and, even talk about an extension of a 43 months of the $1,000. They had announced 3 months in the budget in December, and there's an additional 3 months, and but he did said it, but he said he has consulted or contacted the financial secretary, like to see the position of the country's purse, if it is possible to give an increase, and he even went as far to tell him, don't start celebrating yet, because he said he don't know when and the amount. I listened to the convention, Saturday evening. So I said, let me just, after I hear Mr. Nair say it, I said, let me just call and put that in. Thank you.
Right, okay, thanks, Mr. Byrne.
Yeah, well, increase in gas, once you have energy price going up, then everything else basically follow. Because gas or energy is what we need to do anything and everything. Transportation will increase. It would increase the cost of production for food and clothing, and everything else increase because of the price of fuel. The situation in Ukraine, as I said last week, I think it was, that it is also creating some other challenges on the African continent as well. We have had some situation there where many nations were facing drought, starvation, and it has kind of compounded that situation. Ukraine and in other parts of that part of the world, we know that it's a wheat supply. I think that we have been fortunate in that regard, that places like India have basically kind of double up, quadruple up their production as it regards to wheat. So while there are some difficulties, other countries are trying to pull up the slack. But I feel, Webbo, that in my mind that this war needs to come to an end very quickly. And I say that because the challenges that we have faced from COVID now being compounded or added onto by this war, it is creating a lot of hardship for a lot of people all over the world. And I think that the sooner that they get this conflict come to an end, then I believe that we can begin to see some decrease in some of the prices, especially as it relates to gas. But it's a brutal war. Some of the targets are basically a lot of humanitarian targets: hospitals, schools, residential buildings. It is really a war of real inhumane proportion, and I was heartened to see that the Western countries would have recently had their meeting there with Biden, and have been sending some very strong signals to Russia. I am hoping that they can continue to pile on the pressure and bring this thing to an end, because the world is going to be worse off if this thing continues for much longer.
You know, I saw an image with a mother and some young children and crying. And one of the comments that she made with emotion, you know, was that no one man is supposed to be able to have the power to be causing all this pain. Mm-hmm. And what I always find is interesting, even with wars, how the people who call for the wars, etc., and so on, they're in an ivory towers in place. And all the rest of us, you know, feel the pain.
Feel the pain.
And that is always...
That's the truth.
Yeah.
The politicians discuss it and they don't disagree, and war start, and the people goes on the front line and endure, you know, major sufferation. Really, at that point, the Webbo, I don't understand how one man in the 21st century can cause so much sufferation, Webbo. I don't know if it's the threat of nuclear war and whatever. But you know, Webbo, the situation there have all of us totally focused. But there are things that happening around the world, and because of politics and allies, we don't get to see a lot. I mean, the Houthi rebels is throwing, you know, missiles in Saudi Arabia all the time. I mean, in Yemen have the worst humanitarian situation in the world. I mean, millions are starving. I mean, look at Israel occupation of the Palestinian people's land, and continual against international law. So a lot of things are happening, you know. But of course, this war in Ukraine have brought this, you know, center for just something that it strikes home harder than everything else, simply because you know, the countries that involve and its impact on the Western world. You know, the war coming to an end is one thing, you know, Mr. Brand, but the sanctions, we are going to feel it because of the sanctions too, you know. I mean, Biden have said that the price of freedom, and Mandela has said that, is high, you know, and the West will have to suffer some in order, you know, for that campaign, that democratic campaign, to really, you know, make sense and have some kind of victory. wheat, Russia is the main producer of wheat. Ukraine is the fifth largest producer of wheat. We're going to feel the effects down here as well, you know, in a lot of things, the cereal, all those things in boxes and so that wheat produces, and pasta and all these type of stuff. So it's a tough way going forward. But of course, the signals are areas like the Caribbean have to be more self-sufficient. Nothing is wrong with thinking that way. We've been learning from the pandemic. Now the war has come. And so, you know, CARICOM need to really come together and see how we can strengthen our region independent of what goes on globally. I mean, you cannot be totally independent of it, but in terms of especially food security, because we have the weather, you know, and I think we have the land.
And the technology.
We have some technology and we can have more, you know, if emphasis is placed on self-sufficiency throughout the region and seeing the region as a whole, because one little island cannot do anything really, to be quite honest. It can't trade with itself, you know what I mean? But it's really a game changer as far as I check, you know, for governments. I mean, everybody now trying to get themselves out of Russia in terms of taking, you know, supply from Russia. That is major. That is happening, you know. So we down here have to also guard ourselves and remove ourselves from such great dependency of the outside world. I mean, in terms of energy, you know, Bill Clinton come down here and say he can't believe we have sun down here and we still dealing with this, you know, this fossil fuel thing. But of course it doesn't change overnight, and it doesn't change simply like that.
Good.
You know.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, Webbo. Yeah, did you get it back from me this, right? I just started iron or something, right? Did you work thing about like with Timothy Harris? I believe the best thing I should do if you got one election. I am a Englishman, right? And I believe to myself that your mother thing that they do in changes and a Douglas was a good man. If you cannot trust a man like Timothy Harris, you cannot trust a man like the Caesar. Now, God himself is a good man, but he's still under his own game. You understand? So I'm telling you honestly and openly, the best thing that you guys can do to try to make one type of argument, instead of argument of revolution, is to become as one government, one government, both in senses and both in changes. It's like got two type of politics, and the argument, let government man they get together. I don't give up no one for the next day. No, being real, and that's the reality of this whole thing about the matter.
Okay.
The whole of my family is from me, there's your mother from top.
Okay, I got you. I got your point. Callers, we ask you to be patient, and when you do get in, we ask you to, you know, make your point in a manner that we can accommodate other folks as well. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, you're on the air. Good evening, you're on the air. Good evening, you're on the air. Okay, could you call back? Yes. Callers, again, please, we ask you to be patient. When you call, you listen to the phone and not the radio. Okay. Yes, Mr. Brand.
Well, Webbo, Naya spoke about...
Okay, Mr. Brand, let's try to call again. They're back. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yeah, good evening, Webbo.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
You're on the air, yes.
Yes.
Yes, everybody blame, this highlight calling in, everybody blaming Timothy Harris for what's going on with Nevis government. But ain't Timothy to blame alone, Webbo? You know who else to blame? What about the former premier? Who is the advisor to the Prime Minister? Telling the Prime Minister what to do and how to deal with Navy's government. Eh? Timothy ain't alone to blame for this thing. Van Samway, the former premier, to blame about with this thing, Webbo. Okay?
I hear you.
Yes, Van Samway, all what's going on, he there telling the Prime Minister what to do, giving the Prime Minister advice how to deal with Navy's government. So he to blame.
So you have that information that based on what Prime Minister is doing, he's advised by former
He
Premier.
advised by the Premier, the former Premier, Van Samway.
That's according to your information.
I know.
Oh, you know that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we have to look into that too.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Well, reference has been made by the former premier about quiet diplomacy. I'm a paper buyer. I buy a paper every week, and I read the paper. And the former premier was on the front page, and he had things to say about the present discussion. You know, I can't say if he was supportive or not supportive, but he have expressed that his approach probably would have been different to the honourable premier.
And get results.
Webbo.
And that's.
And get
Well,
results.
Mr. Brand, you got the last word. We got to go to leadership matters.
What I would say, Webbo, is that I think we have long past quiet diplomacy.
That's the last word. The Honorable Spencer Brand. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. We now go to Leadership Matters.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the News Broadcasting